week, a new movie has joined the $1 billion movie club, making it only one of the 53 movies that have ever made over $1 billion at the box office. That's right, Greta Gerwig's Barbie, which released in theaters about 3 weeks ago, has officially crossed $1 billion at the box office. And not only that, but it has become an absolute phenomenon in the realm of theatrical experiences. So today I'll be sitting down to rank Barbie amongst the other 52 movies that have crossed $1 billion in the box office. And before I give you guys my ranking, let me know your ranking in the comments down below. But without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. So the tiers that I have are at the very bottom: have not seen yet, bad, meh, good, great, and best of the best. These are my normal tiers with the addition of have not seen yet, because there are just very few movies on this tier list that I haven't gotten the chance to watch yet, but I've seen the overwhelming majority, so I thought I should make this tier list. Again, let me know your ranking in the comments, but starting it off with the live action remake of Aladdin, I'm gonna put this at meh. Initially, when this movie came out, I was a decent fan of it, but I haven't really revisited since. I think Will Smith is actually a very decent genie, but other than that, this movie really doesn't do much for me, and that is with a lot of the Disney live action remakes, which a lot of them have made this list because a lot of people like to go watch them, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're good. Next up is Alice in the Wonderland. Now, I would put this in have not seen yet because I haven't seen this movie in a very long time, but the fact that I have seen it, I feel like I should put it somewhere on this list. Even though I don't remember much of this, again, take it with a grain of salt, I'm gonna put it underneath Aladdin at meh. I just don't remember much from this movie. I was so young when I initially watched it, but I will say the performances in this movie are really fun, and I do remember having a very good time. But I think the fact that I have not revisited this movie at all in my entire life since the first time I ever watched it says a lot, especially for being so popular and being the talk of town for a very long time. Next though is Aquaman, and I'm not gonna lie, I am one of the few people I feel like that will defend this movie to its grave. There are a few flaws with it, but I will say it is a good movie. I don't think it's gonna stay at the top of the good tier for very long, but I do love some James Wan, and the way that he directs this movie is so awesome. I love the way that the visuals are in this movie. The story is very mediocre. It's just a lost boy takes the throne. It's a very simple story, but I won't lie, it works. I really enjoy this movie. I love superheroes. I love comic movies. There's a bunch of them on this list, and you guys will see I absolutely love them all, and Aquaman is one that I just really enjoy. Then we have another one that's very recent, Avatar: The Way of Water, and I'm gonna put this at great. I just sadly don't think the Avatar movies scratch that particular itch for me, but I will say there are still great movies. I'm gonna go ahead and rank the first one as well because it is next up on the list. I'm gonna put the first Avatar movie at the top of meh. Now, I don't want to talk about both these movies together. I love Avatar: The Way of Water, and I watched Avatar, the original, for the very first time in real 3D IMAX the September before The Way of Water came out, as it did re-release. And I'm not gonna lie, I was just very disappointed by it because the story was so lackluster. It's that classic Pocahontas white savior type of story, which I just didn't really like. But I think that The Way of Water introduced so many great characters, and it solely didn't become about Jake Sully. And Jake Sully is a very badass character, 100%. I just don't really think that character alone, which is what the first one centers around, is very entertaining. But when he's paired with his family and you see them migrating to another group, I think there's just so much to love about this world expanding. And I'm not gonna lie, I am so excited for the third, fourth, fifth, however many movies they make. I'll be seated James Cameron. Anyways, next up we have Avengers: Age of Ultron, and I am actually a very big defender of this movie. I'm gonna put this at top of good. Now, if you guys don't know, I do rank the movies within the tiers of how I do rank them, so you guys can get a full understanding of my actual ranking within the tier list. So Avengers: Age of Ultron is above Aquaman because it's in front of it. I love Avengers: Age of Ultron. There are some deleted scenes that I'm like, I wish they kept these in the movie. But Avengers: Age of Ultron, I think it just gets a lot. This movie, I think, just gets a lot of hate though because it's between all of the other Avengers movies. I mean, all the other Avengers movies are absolutely awesome. I honestly, hot take, I enjoy Age of Ultron more than I enjoy Endgame because a lot of Endgame is just la-di-da, going time travel, all that kind of stuff. It's more fan servicey in my opinion than Avengers: Age of Ultron, which I really just like. I like how raw and visceral it gets. Ultron is an amazing villain, which I wish they just kept him for more than one movie. And the introduction of Pietro, Wanda, and it just very much expands the Marvel universe while still keeping it an Avengers story that feels like a little bit more Iron Man story. And they balance it out with Captain America: Civil War, which is primarily Captain America's story, but also kind of going into the Avengers story realm. I just really like the way that this movie plays such a key role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. And I I like it by itself as well. Then we have Avengers Endgame. Now, I'm so sorry guys, but I'm gonna have to put this at good. I don't know if I put it above or below. I'm gonna put it above Age of Ultron for now, but that could change by the end of this video because I like Endgame a lot and I like that it's a culmination of like basically my whole childhood, this universe that I know and love, but there's so many decisions in Endgame that just don't sit right with me. Fat Thor is one of the ones that I just absolutely hate. What they did to Bruce Banner is horrible, but I will say the ending to Captain America in this movie is phenomenal. One of my favorite movie character endings of all time. But that aside, this movie is just very la-di-da, like I said before. Time traveling, doing all these different things. It's just not very entertaining to me. The first like 30 minutes is great. And then it just becomes la-di-da. And then the final hour of this movie is absolutely awesome, amazing, so cool. Next up, we have Avengers Infinity War. This is going in best to the best. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, comic book movie ever made as well. It is just absolutely phenomenal. I love the way that it culminates the Marvel universe while still feeling like such a great story by itself. The legend of Thanos, the way that they tell his whole story. Thanos is literally the protagonist of this film in my opinion, and it is just so cool the way that they bring everything together, and it's still a fun and entertaining story. Obviously, this movie was hard to come up with. It was hard to write. It was hard to get everyone together for the right reasons story-wise, but I think they did a perfect job. Like, I literally could not name one flaw of this movie. It's paced perfectly. It's written so well, and this movie makes Thanos one of the greatest villains of all time. But next up on the list, we have the newest movie in the $1 billion movie club, Barbie. I'm putting this at great. Barbie is such a great movie. Honestly, I'm going above Way of Water. Both these movies are sitting at about an 8.5 out of 10 for me, so rating wise they're pretty similar, but I am going to put Barbie above Way of Water just because I think it strikes more of like a personal chord than the Way of Water does, because yes, the Way of Water is way more epic and all that kind of stuff, but I just think Barbie does such a great job of telling a really funny story, but also being serious at the same time. I do wish it was a little bit more serious. I mean, the theatrical experience was absolutely amazing. It was so much fun. Everyone was laughing all the time, but it kind of felt weird in those more serious moments that you didn't really get that at all. The serious moments felt very undermined by other comedy, and the tones were very clashing, and I didn't really like that. But that's like my only complaint about this movie. All of the performances are phenomenal. Greta Gerwig, this is the first female-led movie, a female-directed movie that's also hit $1 billion in the box. This is also the first female-directed movie to hit $1 billion in the box office, and that's also absolutely amazing. Greta Gerwig 100% deserves that. Her track record for films is absolutely insane. I'm glad one of them has finally hit $1 billion. And the way that her and Noah Baumbach wrote this script, they absolutely demolished it because they knew how to tell such a serious story while also giving comedy. And I will say again, like I said, I do think there's a little bit too much comedy at times and it undermines from the serious elements of it. But I also think the fact that so many people were able to resonate with the story while also laughing every 5 to 10 minutes in the film says a lot about the talent. Then we have Beauty and the Beast, the live action remake. I'm not gonna lie, I really like this movie. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of good. It's honestly one of my favorite Disney live action remakes. I think Emma Watson is absolutely amazing. The guy who plays the Beast is also great. Gaston is so hateable, and visually it also just doesn't look like mud like the other remakes. I love the way that they build this world. And yes, they're just retelling the Beauty and the Beast story. Maybe it's because I wasn't familiar with the story as much when I went to watch this movie and I wasn't a big fan of this character or whatever. I just wasn't really into the lore of Beauty and the Beast specifically. So going to watch this movie, seeing it all in live action, it felt like it was in our world and it felt so real. And it felt like what a live action remake is meant to do. It's meant to take this thing that was in animation that might feel a little bit distant, but now that it's in live action, it feels like a story that connects just a little bit more with the person watching, and this movie does exactly that. But next up on the list, we have Black Panther, and hot take, I'm gonna put this at top of good. I'm just saying hot take because I feel like a lot of people will probably put it in great or best of the best. I like this movie, I really do. I do think it's overrated in a sense though. I think in terms of Marvel movies, yeah, it is really, really great, but like my complaint for Aquaman and even Avatar. The story is just really simple. It's pretty much the same story as Aquaman, not the same story as Avatar, but it is a story that's been repeated a lot of times, like what Avatar's problem is. It's more of just a guy takes the throne back type of story, and it works really well because it's emotionally resonant, and I think the cast and crew put more effort into the storytelling aspect of it. I think that's why people resonate with this overtold story. But I just like it a lot because it's also a superhero. Like, it's a comic book movie and it's fun. Chadwick Boseman proves why he's one of the greatest comic book castings of all time as Black Panther. I think all of the performances are really great. Michael B. Jordan is also absolutely amazing as Killmonger, and I think the music is so stellar, and I wouldn't say the visuals are amazing, and for most of the movie they are, but the end of this movie, I think, does go downhill a little bit with that final battle. Fully CGI, just looks very, very PlayStation-y. But other than that, I really like what they did with the visuals here. But moving on, next we have Captain America Civil War, and this is going in best of the best, I think. Like I said, I might move this around later in the video, but I really like Captain America Civil War, one of the greatest comic movies of all time. Again, one of, if not the best Marvel movie. But Captain America Civil War, to me, is just such a great catalyst for the rest of the MCU, while still telling such a personal and amazing story about betrayal. I think the emotional element of Civil War does a great job of standing up with other movies outside of the comic book movie genre. I mean, we know that a lot of awards like to look down on comic book movies, but I think Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in this film is absolutely amazing, and he's just a supporting actor. He's not even the main title character, and he's putting on a show here. Then we have Captain Marvel, and this is gonna be a meh movie for me. I'll probably put this above Aladdin just because I enjoy it a little bit more than Aladdin, but I don't really have much to say about this. I'm just not a fan of the characterization of Captain Marvel. My biggest problem, and I liked her in Endgame because she was very powerful and she proved that. But in Captain Marvel, she's very arrogant, she's very cocky, but it never really feels like she backs that up. In Endgame, she really does, and she feels really, really badass and powerful like her character set out to be. But in Captain Marvel, I really just didn't feel that. I don't have much else to say. I'm just not a big fan of the movie. Then we have Despicable Me 3. This is going bottom of meh. A watchable movie. It's fun. I think all of the Despicable Me movies are fine. This is my least favorite Despicable Me movie though, and you'll see a lot of the rest of them on this list. Then we have Finding Dory, which I actually really, really like. I forgot this was even $1 billion movie, but honestly, I'll probably put this above Avengers Endgame. I would say I have Avengers Endgame at like a 7.5. I would say Finding Dory is about there as well. Finding Dory is such a great movie to me because it's able to follow up Finding Nemo like 14 years later. And I won't say it's as good as Finding Nemo because I feel like it just does kind of take that story and repurpose it for Dory in a different way a little bit. But I like Finding Dory for what it is. I love the messages. I really just love the fact that they're able to tell a continuation of characters without really making it feel stale, because at least for me, it was just really, really entertaining. Then we have Frozen 2, which is one of the movies on this list that I have not seen yet. Why I haven't seen it, I don't know. I just literally never got to it. But we have Frozen on the list next, and I'm going to put this at good. I'll probably put this above Finding Dory. Yeah, I'll probably put it around here on the tier list. I will say I haven't seen Frozen in a while, but what I do remember from the movie is absolutely awesome. It's so much fun. It is just a really good time. I remember watching this one in theaters. This was my first time watching a movie at Disney Springs, which is like a really big theater, and I was so excited to go watch with my family, and we had such a great time. Now that I'm older, the movie itself does feel childish, and I can use that as a critique because I feel like a lot of other Pixar movies, even if I've gotten older, they still don't feel childish to me. For example, like Ratatouille, and even the Toy Story movies to me. But Frozen definitely has become a little bit lower as I've gotten older, but it's still a good film. Then we have Fast 7, another movie that I have not seen yet, sadly. Most of the Fast movies I have not seen. But moving on, we have Harry Potter's Deathly Hallows Part 2. This movie is going at the top of good. I would say, I don't know, because this one's bordering about an 8 out of 10 for me. Not the best in the Harry Potter series, in my opinion. I actually rewatched all the Harry Potter movies before Hogwarts Legacy came out because I was just really excited for Harry Potter for some reason. And damn, is this franchise great. But Harry Potter's Deathly Hallows Part 2 is one of the weaker films in the movie, in the entire franchise, but that's saying a lot because the franchise is absolutely amazing. But as a franchise, this is a stellar conclusion to everything that's going on there. They have so many great moments, so many great callbacks, but also it tells tells its own story. I think it's also because Deathly Hallows Part 1 sacrificed so much in terms of storytelling. It was so rushed. It was just so pushed forward to just get to Part 2 that Part 2 succeeds from that. I've talked about this a lot on the internet, but I love the fact that they're making an HBO series. I think I'm alone on that one a little bit, but I really do have high hopes. Yes, visually, I don't think they're gonna make a very big difference between the movies and this new TV show, but I do think that they'll end up making a lot of story differences. Every season is supposed to be what each book is doing, and so you have so much more length to be able to tell a story. You can tell it way more compellingly, and you can just have way more of a fleshed out universe, which I do think toward the end of the franchise, and you see this in Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, the franchise started to suffer storytelling wise in terms of telling a better and more cohesive unit of a story because they were rushing to get to the end. And then we have the first Harry Potter movie, which I didn't even know made $1 billion, but I'm gonna put this at the bottom of middle-ish of good. In the scale of Harry Potter, right? This, I would say, is on the bottom side of Harry Potter movies. But again, the Harry Potter movies are so strong. The franchise is so strong. But I think as a whole, when you kind of take it out of the story of Harry Potter, you kind of keep it out of the franchise. Since it's the first movie, it does so much small world storytelling. It's just one that is fun, but it's just a good movie. I think someone can make the case for it being great or even best of the best if you're a diehard Harry Potter fan, but for me, it sits in a solid good spot. Then we have Iron Man 3, which again, didn't know that it made $1 billion, but I'm gonna put this at the top of meh, comfortably above Captain Marvel, and maybe on a good day it's above the Avatar movie, but I think Iron Man 3 is overhated. I think Iron Man 2 and 3 are both very overhated just because Iron Man 1 is so great, and they were also kind of used to push forward the Avengers movies and the rest of the MCU, but I think Iron Man 3 works really well. I personally really enjoy the Mandarin twist. I really like the direction they go with Tony, focusing more on his mental health, and I think that creates a unique side of the character that's something that we didn't really get for Captain America, as well as all the other main heroes in the MCU. They're all more hero, right? And Iron Man is kind of like that, but I think since he's a billionaire, playboy, philanthropist type of character, you have that ego barrier that I'm glad they kind of not took down, but I guess explored. And then we have Joker, which I absolutely love. I don't think it's gonna crack best of the best, but I'm putting it in great for now, very top of great. It's like a 9 out of 10 for me. I just don't know if it can crack where the rest of the movies and the best of the best are. I rewatched this movie an ungodly amount of times for how dark and depressing it is. I think Ludwig Göransson's score is phenomenal. I think the score of this movie is phenomenal. I love the visuals of this movie. I love the performances. I love the direction that Todd Phillip takes this character. And yes, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's inspired by other movies like Taxi Driver. It's not its own story. I think the comic book movie genre very much, obviously other than like Infinity War, Civil War, stuff like that, I think a lot of comic book movies, they succeed whenever they take inspiration from other genres, but input characters that we know and love from the comics, because there is already this characterization that sits with them and allows them to flourish in a different genre. And Joker is exactly that. Joker is such a great character study. It's such a great deep dive. And again, I've rewatched this movie way too many times because it is way too dark. It is way too depressing. I almost wasn't going to go watch in theaters because my parents were too scared because it was making headlines for being way too dark and disturbing. But I've seen this movie so many times and I absolutely love it. Joaquin Phoenix gives one of my favorite performances of all time. And then we have a set of the Jurassic World / Park movies. Starting it off with Jurassic Park, I'm going to put this movie at the pretty much the top of great. I think it's about a 9 out of 10 as well. I don't think it sits in best of the best, but I think this movie is absolutely awesome. It's so much fun. I actually watched it the first time ahead of Jurassic World Dominion, which is next up on the list, which I might as well go to. It is bad. This movie sucks. It is one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen. Not worst movies, I guess, but most disappointing movies of all time, because let's just get to the next one on the list. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I don't think this movie is great, but I will say, hot take, I think it's better than Avatar, low key. I know everyone's gonna flame me in the comments for this, but I love this. It's not that I love this movie. I think it's entertaining as hell. I really going with the world. I mean, you're kind of taking out Isla Nublar, I think that's what it's called. You take that out of the mix, you introduce dinosaurs into the real world, and then you set that up for a great storyline in Jurassic World Dominion where dinosaurs are literally roaming civilization, and then they made Jurassic World Dominion about lotuses. Jurassic World Dominion is one of the stupidest movies I think I've ever seen in my entire life. But Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is very, very entertaining to me. Again, I know this placement is going to catch me some heat, but I also think Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt are a great duo. And I think the ending of this movie is also really, really great with the genetically modified dinosaur that's being auctioned off to a bunch of rich people. And then that whole fight in the mansion. I like that it is secluded, but it leads to something that is a lot bigger for the world as a whole. But that moves us to Jurassic World, which I did rewatch recently, and I'm gonna put this at somewhere in, but that leads me to Jurassic World, which I'm gonna put honestly in good. I'm gonna put it around, I'll put it right above Avengers Age of Ultron, right below Finding Dory. I think this movie is super duper entertaining. I have so much fun with it. I love Chris Pratt. I love the introduction of the world, and I also love the two kid characters because yeah, they're kind of annoying, but they're also really entertaining, unlike the one that's in Jurassic World Dominion. If you guys want to check out my ranking for all the Jurassic World / park movies, you can check it out on the screen or in the description down below. I had a really fun time ranking all them because I watched most of them for the first time before Dominion came out, and Jurassic World, spoiler for that video, is very high on that list. But next up on the list is Minions, and I think this movie is fine. I think it's very fun, but it's just meh to me. I'm gonna put it in meh. I'll put it below Iron Man 3, above Captain Marvel, because I think I enjoy the Minions movie a lot more. I just have a soft spot for the Despicable movies because technically I did grow up on them. But here we get to a small stretch of movies that I haven't seen yet, which are the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, as well as Skyfall, which is a James Bond movie. I haven't seen those three movies. I haven't gotten to them yet. I haven't seen any of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies or any of the James Bond movies except for No Time to Die, which I'm gonna get to those franchises eventually, trust me. But next up on the list is Rogue One. I love this movie. I think it's so good. I'm gonna put this near the top of good. Probably, honestly, I'm gonna go above Black Panther. I don't think it's a great movie per se, but it is a very good, solid Star Wars movie. It is one of my favorite cinematographers of all time in Greg Fraser, as well as just an amazing ensemble. This movie I love even more after watching Andor, because I thought Andor was such an unnecessary show, but it proved to just make Rogue One feel so much more impactful. And I also think why I like this movie so much is because it did the one thing that I really want Star Wars to do, which is just kind of shy away from the Skywalker saga. Yes, it does use the Death Star in a very big way, but other than that, like, main plot point type of thing, character-wise, I'm really happy that they strayed away from the Skywalker saga and they still told a really great story. Next up on the list, though, is Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm gonna put this movie at the top of meh. I think it's an enjoyable film. I think it does some fun Spider-Man things, but I don't think it necessarily does good Spider-Man things. I don't necessarily think it represents the character of Spider-Man himself in a very good way. My main thing that I like about this movie is Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, though. Next up, we have Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm putting this at great, underneath Jurassic Park, I think. I would say these top three movies in great are at about a 9 out of 10. I would say No Way Home is about an 8.5 out of 10 for me. I love No Way Home as I've watched it more and more. If you guys know, I watched it like 8 times in theaters, but I will say every time I watched it in theaters, and the 2 times I watched it at home, one time being the regular version and one time being the extended version that they dropped, my only problem with it is the first half of this movie, not even first half, first act of this movie just feels so elongated because you know what's coming in the final 2 acts. But then again, I've seen this movie way too many times. No sane person will watch this movie this many times, but I really liked it. I really enjoyed it as a Spider-Man fan, as a fan of the Spider-Man franchise, not just Tom Holland Spider-Man. I really just liked it, and Spider-Man is my favorite movie, not movie, honestly, just character of all time, I think. Next up, we got a few Star Wars movies. First off is Episode 1. Sadly, I do have to put this at bad, top of bad. Again, it's a fine movie. I can't get myself to rewatch this damn thing. I watched it for the first time very recently. You can check out my Star Wars tier list video that I made after watching Andor, and I really enjoyed the franchise as a whole, and this does a great job of introducing Anakin Skywalker in starting a saga of a story that's very impactful, but as a movie by itself, it's not very good. Then we have The Force Awakens, which, hot take, I think is a great movie. I'm gonna put this honestly right below No Way Home. And just to piss you guys off even more, The Last Jedi is going in great. I'm putting it right below The Joker. I think The Last Jedi is a phenomenal movie. I watched this in theaters twice, and just so you know, I watched The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi without ever watching any other piece of Star Wars content, and I love both of these movies. I think that might be why I like it so much, is because I didn't watch all the other movies yet, so I didn't really know what was going on, or I didn't know. Maybe people are like, oh, it was such a downgrade and you just didn't know. And I kind of get that argument, I guess, but for what these movies are, I absolutely love them. I love the way that they tell Rey's story. The Last Jedi is such an amazing story of moving on, accepting the future, and understanding what you must do to move on in life with Luke Skywalker, and I love that. Kylo Ren is such a phenomenal antagonist, even through Rise of the Skywalker, which is this last one I'm going to rank, and I'm going to put this in bad as well. I'm going to put it below episode 1. But talking about this trilogy as a whole, I think the first 2 movies are phenomenal. They are so great. They're so much fun. They tell such emotional and really well, like, just told out stories, even on a visual level. Character-wise, they do such a great job of interpreting them, in my personal opinion. And then Rise of Skywalker just throws all of that in the trash. And then we have the Chris Nolan Dark Knight movies. Dark Knight Rises, I am going to put at the bottom of meh. I'll put it by... Ooh, damn, honestly. Okay, this is off of personal enjoyment. Okay, I'm putting this below no, I can't do that. I just love this movie too much. Okay, I'm settling top of good, below Rogue One, and below Deathly Hallows Part 2. I really like The Dark Knight Rises, and you can check out my full Christopher Nolan movies ranking. Again, it'll be linked up here. I talked about all of the Chris Nolan Batman movies there, and we'll go ahead and rank The Dark Knight as well. It's at the top of the best of the best. It is my favorite movie of all time at this current moment in time. But speaking on Rises first, I really like this movie. I think it's very overhated just because it came after The Dark Knight, but I think there's so many great elements to this movie. My least favorite part of this movie is Talia al Ghul's death. It is so bad, but I think Bane is such a great villain. I think the arc that Bale's Batman goes on is so amazing, and I love the way that it really culminates the world as well. And speaking of The Dark Knight, I don't know what else I can even say anymore. I've talked about this movie so much on the channel, but I love it. It is perfect in every single way. The performances, the visuals, the action, the set pieces, the story, the twists, the turns. Everything is amazing. Everything is perfect. I rewatched the movie recently as well. I mean, when am I not watching this damn movie? The pacing is like butter. It's so smooth. Anyways, the next few movies are also some that I have not sadly seen. Fate of the Furious, I have not seen. The Hobbit, I have not seen. Lord of the Rings, I also haven't seen, as well as Toy Story 4 and Titanic. The Lion King live action remake. This is such a bad movie, but I will say, technically, it is magnificent. So I have to put it at the top of bad. I can't put it underneath these other movies because it is visually a feast. It looks phenomenal. But I will say, the performances by the actors, that I think they're just all celebrities, it is horrible. Zero effort. I think there's just zero emotion in any aspect of this film. It is live action. And so you can't get the emotion because animals don't emote like that. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to make a live action Lion King movie. It made $1 billion, but no one likes the movie. And then we have the Super Mario Bros. Movie, another movie that came out earlier this year and did hit $1 billion in the box office. I'm honestly going to put this at the top of meh because I had a really fun time with it. I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, my whole theater was laughing. There were kids standing up. Yes, it was kind of pissing me off and it was really annoying, but it's a kid's movie. I didn't really care. Everyone was having fun. I will say the only time I'll talk about musical supervision in this entire video is with the Super Mario Bros. Movie because it sucks so much ass. It's so bad. The music they choose to put in this movie. Also, it's opposed to the score. That is awesome. The score does such a great job. If you guys listen to it on Spotify, it does such a great job of doing these classic Mario themes for all of these characters and remixing it, making it feel more upbeat and honestly just modern. And they never use it. They never use it in the movie ever. And they opt to use random pop songs that we've heard a trillion times. And then we have Toy Story 3, which is also going in the best of the best. And while we're here at the best of the best, I do want to move a few movies up. I want to move the Joker up, The Last Jedi, as well as Jurassic Park. And I'm going to keep them in the same order. I think Toy Story 3, though, is absolutely amazing. My favorite Toy Story movie, and honestly, one of my favorite animated movies of all time. Lotso is one of the greatest villains of all time. And this tells such a personal story about belonging and understanding your purpose in life. And obviously, it's very simple with this movie. It's just about, it's about toys, right? They're getting passed on to a new owner. But I feel like that says a lot. And I rewatched this movie recently as someone who's now going to college and who's going to be exploring a new life for the first time. This movie feels like something that I just, like, when I was little, I just didn't get it like that. And this movie feels like the perfect representation of my life right now. And that's why I think it's so high. Next up, though, we have 2 Transformers movies. I think this is Transformers Age of Extinction and then Dark of the Night. I think that's what it's called. Both of these movies suck so much ass. going in the bad tier. I watched all the Transformers movies for the very first time ahead of Rise of the Beasts. You can check out my full ranking up on screen. But the Mark Wahlberg movies suck so bad. They are some of the worst action movies I think I've ever seen. I don't know how anyone can like these movies. They are horrible. The CGI is fine, I guess. But other than that, they do absolutely nothing. The characterization of Optimus Prime is dog water. They barely even use the Transformers. One of the movies introduces Merlin. Why? I do not understand the Transformers franchise. I like that Rise of the Beast took it back a notch, but the Mark Wahlberg movies did way too much. And then we have Zootopia, another one of my favorite animated movies of all time. To be honest with you guys, I'm going good. Probably, I would go below, I would go right above, I'll put it above Black Panther, to be honest with you. I recently also rewatched this one because I think they did announce Zootopia 2, so I was more in the Zootopia vibe, and I really enjoyed this one. It's such a good time. The ending does get pretty serious, and I really, really like that. Like a bunch of other Disney animated movies, they do such a great job of telling this personal story of, once again, belonging, understanding your place, a sense of being an underdog. There are so many great thematic elements to this film, and it's also super creative. I mean, they have basically copied this movie with Elemental and done the same exact thing. Zootopia was obviously more of a platonic thing than Elemental, but Zootopia is just so creative. It's this world that feels so immersive, and it's just a very fun movie. And then we have Avengers. I'm gonna put this at best of the best. I'd probably go above Joker, but staying below Toy Story 3. Avengers is one of the first movies, not one of the first movies I watched in theaters, one of the first comic book movies that I watched in theaters. It just has a special place in my heart. I have so many great memories of watching this movie, going to watch the movie. I think it was also one of my first PG-13 movies in theaters, which I don't know why I remember that, but this movie just has a special place in my heart. The main thing I remember when I think about this movie is the Nerf blaster that has the Iron Man hand, but it's like the Nerf bullets out of the bottom. So this movie just holds such a special place in my heart with me, my parents, it's all these memories. I just think of Avengers when I think of that. And on top of that, the movie is so great. I love Loki. He's such a great villain. And that final New York battle is so awesome. It is so sick. The way that they cut between all the different characters, the action flows so well. The visual effects are absolutely amazing. And my favorite part about this film is the way that they bring together Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man. And again, I think a lot of it is nostalgia, but I really don't give a shit because it's such a great movie. And then we have another movie that recently joined the $1 Billion Movie Club last year with Top Gun Maverick. I think this movie is also great. I'm gonna put it above Barbie. I'll put it above Force Awakens, below No Way Home. I think Top Gun Maverick is such a good movie. I still have not seen the original Top Gun, but this movie really surprised me because why the hell are they making a Top Gun movie again, right? I've heard things about Top Gun, but I never heard it was an amazing movie that needed a sequel of sorts, but they do such an amazing job of keeping an emotional core, and it's just Tom motherfucking Cruise. He's doing his thing. He's having so much fun. He's actually flying the planes. He makes every one of his cast members fly planes as well. It is pure adrenaline. It's pure action. I saw the editing timeline for this movie, and it is chaos, and I love it. That's why this movie is so great. It's so big. It's action-packed. They put IMAX cameras in fighter jets. This is why we go to the movies. This is why we watch cinema. And finally, Incredibles 2. I'm putting this movie in good as well. I'm gonna put this just above Frozen, just under Avengers Endgame. Incredibles, the original, is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, in my opinion, superhero movies of all time, in my opinion. Incredibles 2 does a great job of following that up. I recently talked about Incredibles 2 as well in my Pixar ranking, which you can check out. It'll be linked on screen as well. But I think the fact that they were able to follow up a movie so long later while still being able to tell a full story that didn't feel like it was unnecessary. They're really expanding upon characters that we know and love. I think Elastigirl was a great choice to become more of a protagonist in this film than just kind of furthering on Mr. Incredible, because I feel like in that aspect, it could have become a little bit more stagnant, but they do such a great job of fleshing out other characters and telling a different story that it doesn't feel stale. But guys, that is my official ranking of all of the movies in the $1 Billion Movie Club. Again, let me know your ranking in the comments down below, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any time up new video or go live. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.